Many of us assume that alcohol is a byproduct of human civilization, a luxury invented only after we learned to farm and build cities. But that relationship actually reaches back much further. It is older than writing, older than farming, and it predates the existence of the human species entirely. Our story begins roughly 10 million years ago, deep down on an ancient and humid forest floor in Africa. Biologist Robert Dudley refers to this as the drunken monkey hypothesis. He argues that our biological attraction to alcohol isn't a modern glitch, but a survival trait hardwired by our primate ancestors. This suggests a strange possibility. We didn't necessarily build civilization and then discover the drink. Instead, an ancient biological craving for alcohol may be the exact reason civilization exists at all. The process begins when ripe fruit falls from the canopy and sits on the humid forest floor, where it begins to break down. At the cellular level, wild yeast gets inside the fruit and begins to consume the natural sugars. As the yeast ferments those sugars, it produces ethanol as a metabolic byproduct, turning the rotting fruit into a source of alcohol. Primates scavenging this overripe fruit ingested the ethanol, experiencing the first mild effects of intoxication. For a hungry primate, that sharp scent of ethanol served as a reliable long-range tracker for calorie-dense food that was otherwise hidden on the forest floor. This created a significant evolutionary advantage. The individuals most sensitive to the smell of alcohol found more food and survived long enough to pass that trait to their offspring. By the time the first humans appeared, this intense biological drive to seek out fermented sugar was already permanently encoded into our DNA. Evidence of this drive appears 13,000 years ago in Rekhefet Cave in modern-day Israel. The Natufians who lived here were nomadic hunter-gatherers, living long before the first farms were planted. Inside the cave, archaeologists found stone mortars carved into bedrock, containing traces of wheat and barley that had been deliberately germinated and fermented. These nomads were spending an immense amount of energy gathering wild grain by hand, not for bread, but to brew beer in these stone vats. 1,000 years later, at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, hunter-gatherers organized the labor needed to move 10-ton stones up a hill to build massive carved pillars. Chemical tests on stone vats found at the site reveal that this was a massive regional gathering place for ritualistic drinking, where people traveled long distances to feast together. Archaeobotanist Patrick McGovern suggests that this desire for beer was actually the primary motivator for early humans to begin domesticating crops. If this theory holds, it means our biological craving for alcohol provided the necessary social and caloric engine to finally end the nomadic era and spark the agricultural revolution. This ancient instinct reached a new scale in ancient Egypt, where the entire machinery of the state relied on fermentation. The laborers who built the pyramids were paid their daily wages in beer, roughly 4 to 5 liters per person, every single day. Because the water of the Nile was frequently contaminated, the brewing process acted as a vital purification system that kept the workforce alive. Beyond hydration, the thick, nutrient-rich beer provided the massive caloric intake required for workers dragging limestone blocks through the desert heat. One single drink served as a water filter, a hearty meal, a medical prescription, and a paycheck. Even in this complex society, the impulse to drink remained the same biological impulse that drove a primate to reach for a piece of overripe fruit 10 million years ago. We didn't build the world and then invent alcohol to celebrate. We are beginning to realize that the hardwired demand for alcohol may be the very reason we built the world in the first place.